When scientists plotted the entire path taken by 3Y/Atlas, including its closest approaches to the Sun, Earth, and Mars, they found that each alignment occurred on resonance dates that had astronomical significance. Ancient cultures have studied key orbital harmonics for a long time. November 11th, September 23rd, and October 5th. Not only do these dates coincide with seasonal equinoxes and planetary transits, but they also coincide with 1 in 54 gravitational synchronizations. In fact, the last time the inner planets were in a similar configuration during a comet passage was the Tunguska event in 1908. This synchronicity sent shockwaves through the scientific community. A random interstellar object would not be able to arrive at such astronomically significant times unless it wasn't random at all. Unless it was timing itself like a clock, not built by human hands. This did not happen by chance, there was a pattern to it. Additionally, space-based patterns are always a design hallmark. The revelation that followed propelled the discussion into previously taboo mainstream science territory. Consciousness in motion. Under deep meditative states, a Princeton neurocosmology team investigated patterns of neurosynchronization. Out of curiosity, they exposed subjects to the 17-minute gas vent intervals and 3 laser light curve pulsation frequencies. They were surprised to find that not just one subject's brainwave activity was synchronized, but across multiple subjects in different rooms who were unaware of each other. This wasn't simple resonance. This was neurological entrainment. It was as if the signal wasn't only mechanical but cognitive, and if it can affect us from across millions of kilometers. What does that indicate about where it came from? Is it possible that 3I/Atlas isn't a rock, isn't a spacecraft, but a thought moving through the universe like a seed of awareness, a message you don't read, but feel, something that responds to being seen, something that becomes part of you the moment you understand it? If that's true, then the potential impact on Mars, whether physical or not, may be just a symptom. The real event may already be happening inside us. As fears about the impact escalated, a quiet group of archaeoastronomers began cross-referencing 3I/Atlas's trajectory with ancient sky maps, not just from Western observatories, but from Babylonian, Mayan, and Tibetan cosmological scrolls. What they found defied belief. A pattern, known as the flame serpent, appeared across multiple cultures, describing a celestial body that descends from the outer dark, curves unnaturally near the sun, and aims for the red god Mars. This pattern repeats in steely carvings, cave etchings, and ceremonial stones, each depicting the same sinuous path. One artifact stood out, a pre-Incan calendar stone from Tiwanaku, showing 4 radiating lines from Mars after the comet's descent. Those 4 lines corresponded to Webb's anticipated pattern of debris dispersion in the event of a Mars impact when processed through photogrammetry. What does this mean? That somehow, someone saw this coming not in this century, but thousands of years ago. It suggests that 3I/Atlas isn't merely passing through history. It may be history repeating itself, and Mars may not be the target. It may be the trigger. Then something utterly unexpected happened. The ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter, which had gone quiet for days to conserve power, detected a spike in xenon isotopes in Mars' upper atmosphere. Scientists initially assumed solar radiation, but the composition was all wrong. This wasn't coming from above, it was rising from the ground, specifically from deep fissures close to Cerberus Fossae, one of Mars's most unstable geological regions. Seismic activity spiked. Subsurface temperatures rose by 3 degrees Kelvin. And in a twist that left the scientific community speechless, magnetometer readings detected a weak but structured magnetic pulse. Repeating every 17 minutes, the exact same interval as 3I/Atlas's gas emissions. The question of whether the object would strike was no longer relevant. The question became whether Mars was already getting ready for it, as if the planet weren't being threatened, but being activated. Something inside the crust, dormant for millennia, had just begun to stir. With every passing hour, the idea of impact became less a physical event and more a temporal one. The Webb team discovered that commentary, spin no longer correlated with 3I/Atlas light fluctuations. Instead, they followed a recursive layered timing sequence. 13 pulses followed by a pause, followed by 7, 3, and 13 pulses. These numbers weren't random. When graphed, they formed a Fibonacci-based spiral, a pattern often associated with organic growth, memory, encoding, and even the coiling of human DNA. Mathematicians and cryptographers worked together on a troubling hypothesis. 3I/Atlas is transmitting time, but not in seconds or hours. The object is not only arriving but also synchronizing in epochs and cycles. Additionally, the countdown does not lead to the impact moment, but rather to resonance, a fusion of consciousness, energy, and orbit. And if this countdown ends, it might not bring an explosion. It might bring a shift in perception, or perhaps even in the very framework of reality as we know it. In the final 72 hours before the projected impact, a signal was detected, low frequency, infrasonic, and unmistakable in its waveform, but inaudible to human ears. It wasn't coming from space. It wasn't even bouncing off Mars. It was originating from beneath Olympus Mons, the largest volcano in the solar system, long thought geologically dead. Suddenly, it emitted a structured harmonic frequency, captured independently by orbiters from ESA, CNSA, and NASA. The signal matched no known natural phenomenon, but when isolated and visualized as a spectrogram, it formed a spiral, the mirror image of the same waveform emitted by 3I/Atlas during its closest approach to the Sun. The scientific community fell silent. Was this the echo of an impact that hadn't happened yet? A planetary handshake, a countdown written into geology itself? We may never fully know what 3I/Atlas truly is until the moment of closest approach. But one thing is now clear. Whatever is about to happen between this object and Mars, it isn't just a collision course. It's a story, a pattern, a message, and the moment of impact, whether physical, temporal, or psychological, may be less about the red planet and more about us. What does it actually mean when a planet seems to respond to something before it even arrives? When a dormant world reacts not to impact, but to presence? Is Olympus Mons speaking back, or just echoing a signal? Has Mars been waiting for this exact moment? And perhaps the most chilling question of all, if this is Mars waking up, what happens when it finally opens its eyes? As countdown to the supposed impact ticked away, researchers uncovered a long-forgotten data set from NASA archives, an old thermal scan taken by the Mars Odyssey orbiter nearly 20 years ago. At the time, the faint heat signature beneath Utopia Planitia had been brushed off as nothing more than solar reflection noise. But when the same region was rescanned following 3I/Atlas's approach, the heat pattern had not only reappeared, it had grown. Even stranger, it now mirrored the shape of an ancient glyph carved into the stone walls of the DNM-Phi. This glyph, almost invisible to the human eye, depicted a descending spiral, striking a circle, flanked by two planetary spheres, aligned at the moment of contact. The implications were staggering. This wasn't just another oddity of Martian geology. Mars may hold a memory not of simple erosion or lava flows, but of an encoded celestial past. What if Mars is more than just a planet? What if it's a recording device, and 3I/Atlas is the key that plays it back? Then something that seemed outright impossible occurred. High-resolution imagery from ESA's Mars Express spacecraft captured something stirring in the dust field south of Nilocietes Labyrinthus. It wasn't wind. It wasn't rover activity. It was movement. A pattern was forming in the sand, slowly rising as if carved from beneath the surface. Over just 4 hours, the shapes extended and shifted until they formed two perfect concentric ovals, and then, unmistakably, an eye, and not just any eye. An eye tilted at exactly 23.5 degrees, the same angle as Earth's axial tilt. The symbolism was overwhelming. Was it an eye watching us, or a mirror showing us ourselves? Scientists scrambled for answers, but none came. Mars had just blinked, not metaphorically, not poetically, but physically. Something beneath the surface wasn't only aware, it was aware of us. Of our geometry, of our orientation, and most disturbingly, of our signal. It was as if this entire event had been anticipated, perhaps even requested, long before our species ever existed. Meanwhile, in one of the final transmissions before signal blackout, the James Webb Space Telescope performed a spectral breakdown of the molecular trail left behind by 3I/Atlas. What it revealed sent shockwaves through every astrobiology lab on Earth. Among the volatile organics and carbon chains was a repeating strand of nucleic acid, eerily similar to RNA, not exactly Earth-based, but unmistakably structured for replication. A foreign form of prebiotic information embedded in the vapor drifting across space. As scientists began mapping it out, a horrifying possibility emerged. It wasn't just biological, it was responsive. Portions of the strand mirrored human-designed encryption keys. Others resembled known musical intervals, as if the molecule itself had been engineered to interact with intelligence, to respond to interpretation. This wasn't passive comet dust. This was a living code. Life not as cells, but as language. Life designed to communicate through space, rather than survive it. As 3I/Atlas entered its final trajectory arc, the global astronomy network mapped one last alignment. Mars, Earth, and the Sun would briefly form a perfect straight line, with 3I/Atlas poised to intersect the axis at the precise moment of solar transit. But this wasn't mere orbital coincidence. The projection matched ancient megalithic alignments on Earth's Stonehenge, Nabta Plea, Teotihuacan, Tiahuanaco, all pointing to the same triad of celestial angles. For millennia, humans had unknowingly built monuments in preparation for this very configuration, and now that alignment was about to repeat not as myth, but as mechanism. Mars the red witness, Earth the awakened observer, the Sun the eternal source, and 3I/Atlas not an object, not a rock, but a keystone falling into the lack of planetary memory. The final position wasn't about destruction, it was about completion, and once it aligned, something would change not out there, but in here. We looked at the sky and thought we saw a comet, a rogue rock, a wandering fragment from some forgotten corner of the galaxy. We called it 3I/Atlas. We tracked its numbers, we mapped its arc, we convinced ourselves it was random. But what the James Webb Telescope revealed wasn't randomness, it was ritual. This object didn't just arrive, it performed, it lined up, it responded. And as it crossed the solar system, every planet it passed began to whisper back signals, pulses, alignments, codes. Mars didn't just react, it remembered, as if this wasn't its first encounter, as if this moment had been scripted into the bones of the planets, the dust of the craters, the pulse of gravity itself. And now, with one final maneuver, 3I/Atlas has taken position not to destroy, but to complete something. A pattern, a countdown, a convergence. Mars may be the stage, but Earth, we are the audience. And we were never meant to be passive observers. We were constantly involved in the design. Every signal we sent, every theory we ridiculed, every telescope we built, were all heard. The final impact may not be physical. It may not leave a crater. But it has already begun to reshape what we thought we knew about Mars, about life, about ourselves. Because in the end, 3I/Atlas didn't come for Mars. It came for our attention. And now that it possesses it, we must inquire about the next step. This story isn't over. If you want to follow the next chapter, subscribe, since what comes next won't be televised. Enable notifications. Share this video with someone who still thinks we're alone. And tell us in the comments, do you believe 3I/Atlas was an accident or an invitation? Because it's possible that Mars won't be affected in the near future. Maybe we're the ones being struck by the truth.